Hey,
I'm David, and this is David Talks.
Mellow Mommy in Delhi.
Hey,
Hold on.
Yo. Nah, break that.
She was horny.
What's
Ready.
this?
Hey.
This is David Talks, episode 32. Welcome.
Yo, episode 32, season 2. Shout outs to y'all for sticking through for first season.
Thank you.
We changing things up a little bit.
Hey. She like why you
Bringing
so
over the
sexy.
energy.
Hey. Hold on. Hey.
I want to give a special shout out to the protesters out there, man, sticking it through.
I want to give a shout out to all the essential workers,
Right.
all the nurses, all the doctors,
Right.
all the people at the supermarkets, all the stores, department stores.
I met her mama in the deli. Hey.
Sanitation.
She was a wedding. Hey. She was horny. Ready.
Yo, we on some different type of time today, man.
I like to give a shout out to people that clean other people's yards or in front of other people's houses because they want their block clean.
She like, why you so sexy? She fell in love when she met me. Tell your ex
Yo, my diaper award's crazy today.
to come check me. All the shit that make messy.
Yeah, I'm not holding back. My diaper ward, I'm not holding back. You're going to get it. It's going to be bad. It's going to be stinky. That diaper's going to be falling apart.
Hello, mama in the deli.
Good morning.
She was on it. Ready. I was on it. Heavy. She like, why you so sexy? Fell in love when she met me. Tell your ex to come check me. Shit get messy.
Yo.
I felt like I had
Let's
to.
cut it. Yo, let's cut
Take
it.
how you put your work.
Alright, so, listen. I gotta get my diaper award. I gotta get my diaper award out here first, man.
You want to go?
Man, yeah.
I got you. 'Cause I got a lot to say.
Because we usually let Dave go, but I'm Dave and I'm on David Talks, man. Shout outs to y'all.
Welcome.
Alright. Alright. This is crazy. I'm going to the store yesterday and I noticed that it's kind of empty than usual.
Right.
And that sounds weird because of the quarantine and pandemic and stuff. And I see this guy going through someone's garbage, which is fine. I guess he's trying to get his bottles or whatever.
Right.
But he just left the bags all open and everything all crazy.
Yeah.
So I was upset about it, and I ain't saying nothing. I keep walking. Then the guy, I guess that owned the apartment, came out. He was like, yo, you're not gonna. I'm not saying nothing about you getting the bottles, but you just gonna leave him out like that? And he was like, he said, "This is your house." Like he just started yelling at him like, "Yo, like, this is your house." And he's like, "But you basically getting money off of me. You taking." So he's like, "I'm basically giving you money to leave my house a mess." And he was just going off like, I don't care. What you gonna do? Whatever. I don't know. But the guy that owned the house looked like he would have walked on the other dude, but he didn't. He was just like upset and stuff. But yeah, man. So I started thinking about everybody that just does reckless stuff all the time in front of other people's houses. Just don't care about the community, don't care about none of that. And then again, it came back today when I was looking at how all the garbage is on the front of that. But anyway, that guy is gonna take the L for everybody that leaves the garbage out. That guy had me tight. I don't know what he was on. Didn't have a mask on, just talking loud and stuff. And I don't know if it's true. I don't know how scientific, this is. But I heard if you talk loud, then you actually could project like different germs further. I don't know how that works or whatever, but it's actually I read it on a few things that seem credible. I know y'all might have to look it up, but yeah, Garbage Man gets 3 diapers from me, man. He gets a whole bunch of.
Wait, you talking about the guy that took the bottles?
Yeah, bottle bag
3.
Yeah,
nah, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Things like that frustrate me too much. I know, I'm just gonna say I'm giving him about 5 diapers. I'm sorry. You get 5 diapers. First off, the frustration, you name it. The guy is nice enough to say to him, "Hey, look, I don't mind leaving bottles out. You know what? If it could benefit you, that's great. Just clean it up so I don't get a fine. That's it. Don't make me take the garbage out for you to mess it up, and then I got to come back behind you and clean up."
Exactly.
That's not
then
fair
it makes
at all.
him look crazy to the sanitation.
Yeah, and what if he wasn't home?
Right.
Then he'll get a ticket. And he'd be like, "Wow, I did everything I had to do right, and still there's a penalty."
Now they mad at each other, basically. Because a lot of these dudes got to pick it up too. They could get reported as well.
It's true. Supervisors are always driving past. If they
Right.
see your garbage looks a certain way, they didn't put two to two together. The real, like, somebody.
Maybe I could up it to 4 diapers, man. Garbage man, you get 4 diapers. The only reason I can't get more is because the crazy stuff that's going on now. A lot of those guys deserve 5 diapers, but I'm sure you got something crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna talk about the vandalism. I could understand, you know, the frustration that's been going on for a long time, but these opportunists, and there's a difference between mindsets. When someone's frustrated, they like mad, but then you have people that are like, oh, cool, we get to have fun.
Right.
They looking at it as, oh, we could start doing something adventurous, so that when they like 90 years old, they could talk about it, what they did when they was young, and usually not that young.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you guys are grown, okay? Girls and guys, by the way, I just need to say that. White and black and anything in between. Whomever is doing this, anywhere from the place that I run, the place I run just was vandalized. They broke the lock, they broke the door. They didn't take anything. It's so weird. They left iPads, they left microphones, they left everything on the floor.
Sounds personal.
Actually, yeah, they thrown on the floor at that. Like, oh, I don't want this, you know. And they got into the register. They got some money out of it, you know. And then they kept going. They did to a few other storefronts, vandalizing. And even if that didn't happen, I was gonna talk about this anyway.
Right.
That just so happened today, this morning.
On, so you got a stack of diapers.
So yeah, so it's funny because that's what I was gonna discuss.
Yeah.
The vandalizing of the Targets, you know, a little close to home. Targets in Brooklyn. You know, Targets are closing down early now. And by the way, official a statement from Target that they're with the protesters.
Right.
You know, and that should matter because in the past, you know,
don't say nothing.
They don't say a word. They don't get involved. They're concerned with losing money, but at this point, they realize this is, you know, life is more important than money.
So we getting into that conversation, or?
Oh yeah, we getting no. I mean, yeah. You know what? Yeah, let me wrap that diaper up. Those guys that vandalized the business that I run and all businesses all over America and probably different countries too. Shout outs to Canada. I know for sure some people.
London.
There's people all over the world that's about this march, about the real point and agenda of this march. I'm just gonna give y'all 5 diapers and we can continue talking. What you give them?
That's 5 diapers for me.
5 diapers?
Yeah, because they're not only just being opportunists and messing up mom and pop shops and like business owned by like the average Joe. They also taking away from the purpose of the march or protest in the first place. So, you know, I'm gonna get into that conversation a little bit more, but they definitely get 5 diapers because they're not just like, you know, robbing people or vandalizing. It's a lot more than that to me.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I definitely want to get into that. There's so much things going on. I just wanna give a special thanks and an acknowledgement to certain people at the moment that I can recall. Miss Bottom, I believe she's a mayor in a town where she fired 2 police officers for tasing some people and others that are on administrative leave or desk assignments, and she will investigate, which is a difference between our present mayor in New York City, where when the cops were like pushing the crowds out the way, and as a driver, not as a cop, but as a driver or as a person, I could understand someone feeling threatened and against a crowd and trying to get out of there. But as police officers that are not in danger immediately, even though it's so close to them. It's a difference because, okay, one, it's not your family. Yes, it's your fellow worker and the situation, but you should be a little bit aware of the situation and understanding how that's just not going to make things better. By the way, I need to also give a shout out to Denzel Washington for what you did. I think you actually sat in front of a police officer in L.A.
He de-escalated the situation, right?
Right. As well as Jamie Foxx for talking and speaking out.
There's a few more celebrities I think are more involved in this situation.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And
for those who don't know what's going on at all, if you want, Google or YouTube an incident that happened to George Floyd. It's an injustice that happened to him. I don't want to get too much into detail about it. I'm personally very affected by it, and I didn't even watch the video. I just seen pictures, but I really couldn't watch the video.
Yes, the video is disturbing. I chose not to this time finish it out. And respect to those people that decided to cut a lot of the videos short. Those type of things are traumatic.
But sometimes you gotta watch it, right?
Sometimes you gotta watch it to know how serious the situation is. And being watched those type of videos so many times, yeah. It's just, sometimes you just gotta know when you have limits to the type of damage you cause.
Right.
With mental health, by the way, today's June 1st, and it's the first day of the month of mental health awareness. And that's important that you know that sometimes you may need to turn the news off or the radio off or not, get into certain situations that could lead to something much worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all on edge from the prior situation, which is still not resolved, by the way. I think everyone's on edge from a bunch of different situations. And there are other situations that aren't brought up to the forefronts of media because the stories aren't as alluring, or they might have criminalized the victims in these situations.
And by the way, celebrities, they do, first off, they put themselves at risk from other people that say it's, oh really, you're gonna say something, and they may lose their money and work and etc.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. And I also want to say for those people that aren't celebrities, people like in New York City where a police officer got divided from his unit, and people were picking and trying to harm him.
Right. And
you had a lot of black men made a human chain and protected him. And
which is respect. I respect that.
That's great. That's something I would have done. And let me explain something. I know some people are gonna say their experience hasn't always been great with police officers. My experience with police officers also weren't always great. And I know you have a particular situation that puts you in a really bad situation with police officers. We may not discuss that if you choose not to at this point, but it was very traumatic. And what I also would add is shout outs to that I would say court officer that protected me when I was in a riot, and it was this Caucasian court officer that literally told me, I'm gonna stand next to you through this whole entire process. When some other court officers tried to take advantage, this particular sergeant, it's funny, I remember his name.
Shout out to that sergeant.
He, tried to take advantage of a situation that I intervened with my family and, protected him. And I'm saying all of that because they are actually good people in general, and there's good police officers in general. And I understand that, if you have a particular problem with a police officer or a person or a situation, see, a lot of us are addressing the wrong people for the problems that we're having. Your fellow citizens or your fellow police officers, a lot of them live in the same neighborhoods or grew up in the same neighborhoods as we do. And by the way, if we do not have real estate in any one of these neighborhoods, we're just renting there. People take this thing very, very seriously. It's not yours. I think there's a way to bring your point across. If you're gonna burn a police car, at least make sure no one's in it. And for those agitators, black and white, I understand a white girl threw cocktail bomb to a police car. People that live upstate, that when they go shopping, everything is normal. Everything is okay up there. When you come to the city, they're destroying neighborhoods and vandalizing. Now, I'm not going to necessarily say they're agents or not agents, but I'm going to say that their excitement isn't making the situation any better. People getting hurt and worse. I could go on and on. What's your thoughts?
You just brought up a whole bunch of different things.
I have so many thoughts in my head. It's really hard to
focus on one thing.
Just one thing is different.
Well, in the wake of George Floyd's death, a lot of people were protesting in his state, and it in the city, and it kind of grew to a state, and then different cities around the world with high populations of African American, or even, I guess we would say, left party or whatever, however you want to categorize certain people were protesting at first. But I think a lot of people are more than just frustrated with the situation. There's a lot of anger going on. So I'm not gonna say I'm against rioting. I'm not personally will be a part of rioting, but I understand why people are frustrated when their voices aren't being heard, or their protests aren't being heard, and they're taken out in other ways. I also think that other people are taking advantage of that on both sides.
I believe so. I believe that,
and that's not even going into the agents. I mean, just people that are like, okay, cops could only be so many places at once, and it could only be a certain number of them. They're all focused on this area. Let's take advantage and do this while we still can, not caring about the situation. It's a thin line between, I think, rioting and vandalizing for your own, and then stealing and robbing and vandalizing for your own stuff. Again, I'm not promoting violence and vandalism at all because of these things. I just understand it. I understand why they would do it to corporate entities and all these type of, establishments that make billions of dollars off of our stress, For those that didn't know, you could look it up. The billionaires in America alone have made over 400 billion more since the pandemic started. So it's like we're all suffering, and these businesses they still continue to grow.
Right.
When the mom and pop shop has to close down.
Exactly.
And that transitions to the vandalism. People are breaking into these businesses that are people owned, like us, And I don't think people with the mindset of let's get justice for George are other people doing that.
Right. George Floyd is he was literally murdered by a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, something needs to be done, and hopefully when this is all over, something will be done. I'll just say this: ask yourself this question: how marches are great, definitely, because you want to disturb the natural order of things and let people understand that you're serious.
Mm-hmm.
Now, take the march to Albany, lobby make a law. You make a law for big corporations, or not, depends, right? Because you'll have people negotiate what's considered a big corporation, right? Clearly, if they were to not just donate but build a park functional in the neighborhoods that they conduct business in, if they're, if the right people are in charge of the funds and spend it the proper way, so the neighborhoods could benefit from these corporations that they're making money off of, and this way we know that they're giving back and they're not just taking. Where you have a lot of different cultures that do the same thing. They set up, they take all that and send it, back to their countries or wherever. It should be this, that concept should be introduced. We have to really begin to think about what's really going to make the difference. What's the most effective way can we go about changing things? And if you make it a law, which is everything else, which is why people in Florida could do what they do, because the way the laws are designed, you have to change the laws. One thing that Barack Obama said, he said, and it doesn't matter what it was referred to, but he said, I could do it, but I'll be breaking the law. See, he had to operate in such a way where it doesn't cause him harm, but also educate people that are actually listening and not trying to be so easily persuaded by policies and what this one's telling you and that. All these policies, where do you think any of these things come from? A lot of people just want this change to happen, but they don't want to educate themselves properly to say, oh, so this is what I have to do? You'd be surprised if you find out the weirdest, let's just Google the weirdest laws they have in America. And then ask yourself, how did they come about? Because somebody actually went down there and made it into a law. Exactly.
Argue legislation.
There's so many thoughts going through my head. And I have to say, the biggest situation that we know of, and I'm sure there's a lot bigger situations even before I was born, but I just want to bring up Rodney King for a second there. In LA, most people probably don't know this, but in the Skid Row, what they call Skid Row in Los Angeles, California, I went there. I wanted to see all of LA, from Hollywood to Melrose Place to Compton, downtown. And by the way, I did hear about, it's probably not on the news, but these are people I know that live in LA. This Caucasian gang with bats was like destroying Melrose Place yesterday, I believe. There's so much information, and it's so hard to just because I want to make sure you guys understand what's really going on and why it's important to understand how to make these situations better. And just for the record, I'm all about, the whole protesting. I'm all about that, and yes, you may have some casualties in regards to storefronts or whatever. And it's certainly better than a human life. I just want to make that clear. But if you take those people that really want to make the change, that's, take them to Albany, take them where they need to be. Everybody voted out, done, simple, and make sure it's enforced. You understand? Don't just take one politician's word for it that he's gonna take care of all of that, because all the same energy that you're putting in to marching or writing or whatever the case is, you could put it into that as well, and actually make a change and actually be a part of the history that you're trying to change. And I just want to say that, you know, I think we're losing focus of everything that's going on. You know, we got a pandemic going on. That pandemic, everybody is in a house. Everybody feels mentally trapped in a house already. And then you have this cop, you know, so accustomed to treating people a certain way because he has a badge and a gun and because he's the law and he's abusing his authority, you know.
You was referring to the Rodney King situation on the Strip.
Oh, I'm all over the place. Rodney King, if a lot of you guys look at the Rodney King situation, you're not going to see a beating quite like this one. And the conditions that whole area was left in is still like that to this day. It's terrible. It's sad. I was actually considering moving to LA. You know, I was considering opening up a business, you know, in LA, and I loved it, and I was just like, wow, this is great. Beverly Hills, great. Melrose Place, great. Downtown, Staples Center, great, everything. But once I turned the corner and I was recording, this guy was like, "Don't record me." But if you're familiar with this, you know that he didn't mean don't record him. He was joking around, you know. And because he was joking around with a situation that he's in, you know, he's making light of a situation that he's in where he's has a tent set up on the street, and it's just a bunch of tents set up on the street, and it's just like it's like a neighborhood of tents. Something I wasn't expecting. I didn't have an opportunity to brace myself. I had no idea. You know, coming from New York City, the homeless population, and that's out of control too. You know, you go to some countries, there's no homelessness. Period. And you have mental illness, and you have, you know, et cetera, all these situations that's going on. And again, you ask yourself, why does these things go on? They go on because corporations make money when these things go on. They make money. And a lot of these non-profit organizations, thank God for them, but some of them make too much money. You know, so, and there's no real way to regulate, to just hope that these people do the right thing. That's something that I would not want to, first off, something I would hope that eventually gets taken care of, right? And I don't want something like that to happen here in New York City or anywhere else, you know, where they just abandon the whole area and just leave it like that. Oh, y'all want to be like that? Be like that.
So, what you're saying is, if they are gonna protest and riot, it should be it would be in an area where it's more like corporations are affected, like a Times Square. Or...
Well, no, I would say where the people that got the money live at. Where they live. Where the people that make the changes, the most financial people in the world, go to their neighborhoods.
Right.
Go there. Because I tell you this, if you mess up their neighborhood, change will happen immediately.
Right.
Period.
Well, I think a lot of that comes with organizing and stuff, and I want to get back into it. But I want to focus more on the vandalism and riots before we get into that conversation.
Sure.
But definitely, I want to go back into organizing. As far as like the riots and stuff are concerned, there's been what they call agents going around and like breaking windows to get into shops. They caught one on camera. They identified him. A lot of those posts are getting taken down off social media.
Are you referring to the off-duty police officer?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just one, but there's been multiple. There's also been bricks, just bricks, a pile of bricks left on different corners of streets and stuff, randomly at protests. I just find that kind of strange. No construction or nothing. I don't know about you, but I've never walked down a Manhattan block and there was just bricks on the corner.
No, absolutely not.
So it's like, who put that there?
Agitators.
Right.
You know, there's people that, again, there's corporations that are financially benefiting from this misery, and supplies is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine now how many masks are being sold now
Mm-hmm.
with the situation.
Right.
And this is what I mean. If you make $1 billion, you should give back.
Mm-hmm.
As simple as that. And give back in a way where it's effective.
Well, that was what like Bernie Sanders was championing. Like, if you make a certain amount of money, you should get taxed a certain amount. And he tried to like end a lot of tax breaks that was happening. When someone rises like Bernie Sanders and proposes a lot of these things, a lot of propaganda is put onto him as being a socialist or being the extreme left, stuff like that. Like, how do you think we're gonna? No, it's not just me or you. Even people that are a Republican are gonna find that balance of not being called a socialist. When you want to tax a billionaire a little more than what they're getting taxed.
Well, if the problem is how uneducated people really are. They feel so passionate about their parties. They feel so passionate about their parties that they miss the whole entire point.
Mm-hmm.
They really feel mentally that they're in a box and you only have choices of 2, maybe 3. You have as many choices as you choose to. Mm-hmm. You do not need to be in any party, socialist, all that. Does that really actually matter? Does that mean that you can't support someone because they belong to a party? It's absolutely absurd, and that's the very reason why it's very, very easy for people in positions of power to control the masses. They create this nonsense. I mean, really, like, they create this situation because they know how important it is for people to feel a part of something. Mm-hmm. They feel powerful, and they feel secure with themselves, and they feel like they have people that think the way they do. It's ridiculous. And this is one of the major reasons why we have situations like this. Mm-hmm. You know, because people are so worried about being labeled. Mm-hmm. Why would it matter to me if Bernie Sanders is, you know, a socialist, for goodness sakes? And then mentally, it means what, though?
You don't want a socialist in office. But what I'm saying is, and I get your point in what you're saying, it's just...
What I'm saying is
I feel like he's pandered. I feel like people... The mindset of a socialist is dangerous, right? But people have to pander to certain sides of the fence just to get votes, and then when you do that, I think you turn off people from on the other side so much that they label you being something that doesn't bring our society any good. So it's more like, it's just, to me, I think you're right in saying that it doesn't matter what party you're a part of. It's more about what laws they're trying to implement and stuff like that. But you should be very careful about who you want in office. You know, and a lot of people speak about Hillary Clinton and certain other names that I could go into, because their immediate message might be welcome to us or anyone of color. But that's just propaganda for just for us to eat up when they have other alternative plans, like creating more jails or putting more money into prisons or creating laws that makes it harder for us to own businesses And by us, I mean people of color and lower class.
Not to sound, not to sound redundant in any way. I'm making a point here by asking you this question. Can you please repeat the last thing you said about laws?
Making laws that make it harder for people to own businesses.
That's the key. That's the key word here. They cannot do things like that unless they make it a law, and that's how we make change, and that's how they stay in power.
Well, what's happening now, and this is kind of steering the conversation a little bit, but like people like Donald Trump, whether you support him or not, are implementing laws or legislation that shuts down social media. And right now he's calling for social media to be shut down. And I think that's very dangerous. I think he's trying to silence, the people. And social media doesn't speak for everyone, but it's definitely a way to communicate and keep things organized and keep information flowing. A lot of it might be false information, but you can, the responsibility is on you whether you want to follow it through. But to silence social media sounds very China to me. He likes to say China, this, China, that, but he's been doing a lot of like things that seem a little dangerous, and I'm not gonna say the word for it. A lot of people might say Bernie Sanders is a socialist, but they might say Donald Trump is something else. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want no beef with the FBI, so shout outs to y'all. But yeah. So, how do you feel about Donald Trump's take on this whole situation? How do you feel about his leadership in this situation? Do you feel it, or do you feel like he's adding fuel to the fire?
I don't, honestly, I like to respect people in positions, not because of fear. I think this is the real reason why people are afraid, because fear, I believe, is taught, it's instigated, and it's the actual only way to control people. It's a psychological situation. There's so much to say about that, except that I don't think anybody's paying the president any mind at this point.
I think that's what. No, I'm the opposite with that.
Do you think they're paying attention to him?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in a part of the country that doesn't care about social media is being riled up.
Oh, I see what you're saying, I didn't mean it in that way when I say a lot of people. When I say a lot of people aren't paying attention to him, I would say a lot of people aren't. But I do know clearly there are people that are.
Well, I mean, even people that don't support him, I feel like at the end of the day, Donald Trump is our president. Right?
Or should I say, he's not being taken seriously for the most part.
But it still leaves you in a state of insecurity. Like, the person that's in charge of our country, the leader of our country, right? Or so we're set to believe, right? If he's not supporting the people, then who is he supporting? And it's kind of just like a slap in the face. He's kind of just telling people, I'm not really here for the people. He kind of says it. What saddens me and what confuses me is the people that support him is who do they think they're a part of? You know what I'm saying? He's not representing them. He never says anything to represent them either. He seems to represent America, not necessarily Americans. And what's scary to me is people seem to support more the idea of America versus their way of life, or even their children. So it's the ideals of what America should be, or what America was.
Well, you have a lot of military as well that, they're trained just, serve and protect your country. They're trained to take orders. They don't necessarily understand what's always, or concerned with what's always going on in people's minds, good or bad. what's making them suffer or etc. That could also pose a problem. But at the same time, I'm sure you have people that think outside the box, that are military soldiers that say, you know what, this is wrong.
So I mean, and that's another part. It's like, are we being separated from the military too? You know what I mean? What's next? Like, we already separated from law enforcement. You know, as far as police.
Well,
I feel ostracized as a society, and I feel like that gap is getting wider. For example, I don't know if you've seen that a reporter and his team got arrested, his crew.
I did not.
Things like that to me is scary. They're supposed to be able to document these things that are happening. They were following directions. It was live on live TV, and the reporter, his name was I forgot his name. Omar Jimenez.
Right.
He's Afro Latino. He was reporting on the protests, and
you know
like
where
right
he
on
was
camera.
reporting at?
Minneapolis. He was recording the early protests and just telling what was going on. He wasn't championing any cause. He was just reporting as a reporter should do. I feel like the police fear of them capturing what was going on made them jump into doing that. But they only arrested the Afro-Latino. They didn't arrest the white crew, you know. And at first they just arrested him. I'm guessing they were like, just take the rest of the crew. I think two of them were white. But the other crew that was there reporting didn't get arrested. It just seems like they're getting targeted. Like, we're being targeted, rather.
Well, Well, me traveling to middle America, like Indianapolis, I would say, you could see the racism very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different kind of racism at that, and it's not just with the adults; it's with children.
Right.
You know, I seen one child, that was mixed with Asian and white, treat their cousin that's mixed with black and white very differently, right to her face. She was probably about 10 years old, and she was just feeling really embarrassed that she came over to a birthday party while her friends were there, and I was in shock. And you do have different levels of racism, and some people like to be quiet about it. Some people are more organized than others. They want their area a certain way, that's it. So, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the situation, but I'm saying mindsets, insecure, and it has a lot to do with self-hate. Self-hate is a very serious thing. That's why I feel it's important for people to be exposed to their heritage. They should be educated where they come from, know who they are, so they won't feel like if there's a majority of a certain group of people that they feel ashamed of who they are, or vice versa. And if you see a certain your own people and you don't see them inspiring to do anything, that could also form a self-hatred situation where you say, "Oh, I don't want no part of this. I want to get out of here."
Right.
So there's so many cases where people are not properly educated, and they create these things that goes on in their minds, where it's like, I don't like you. I don't like you because you represent this, or I don't like you because you represent that. And the fact of the matter is that you don't like the deeds they have done, or the ideas that they have, and that's what you don't like.
Do you also think that this has transcended race? This situation with police officers and brutality?
There's a lot of things to consider. Just like the streets, if you say something about somebody, they want to call you a snitch, or whatever the case is. That's a form of control, by the way. And for people that say it's not, that's on you. I respect it. But same thing like in the police department. Police officer does something completely wrong, even kills somebody, everybody shut up. They shut up because what they got to go through if they open their mouth, they got to worry about their families. They're scared. They say
more
something.
Scared than people in the street.
Much more scared, because you got a bunch of people with guns that could, so different.
A lot of strings, a lot of resources.
Yeah, you know, and
It's definitely scary as far as, you know, a lot of movies and documentaries show that
well, I mean, Mayor,
these corporations,
respectfully,
or
Mayor De
police.
Blasio. And speaking of that, I believe that Mayor De Blasio is afraid of the police department. I believe this
Well,
is
his
why
daughter was just arrested.
she was
yesterday.
arrested. Yes, an hour after he told the rioters to go home.
Mhm.
His daughter was arrested. You know, I believe that he's afraid that he doesn't want to say anything against the police department because he's afraid.
Mhm.
And they look what you got the biggest army in the world.
Right.
New York City Police Department is the biggest army or second biggest army in the world. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. So, you know, politicians, this and that. There's so many things to consider here, and and also let me just say that I know you said you feel that separation alienated. There are a lot of cops that are taking knees. There's sergeants that are walking. I know in Jersey they have police officers walking with the protesters.
Mm-hmm. It's very different in Jersey. It's very different, and it's just one state away.
Yeah, it is very different. You know, they have a different. You're a cop in New York means absolutely nothing if you cross the George Washington Bridge or the other bridges that go into Jersey. They'll take your gun. So it is a difference. They're not about that. They got their own way of doing things, and it's true what you say.
Right.
But here in New York City, the richest part of the whole entire world, it works very differently. You know, and you got to take those things into consideration. And we just got to hope that people say to themselves, you know what, we're going to have to make some serious penalties. And again, you have to lobby these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if police officers go to jail for killing somebody for a long period of time,
Right.
you better believe there ain't going to be a lot of people getting killed. As simple as that.
Dang, I want to touch up on one things. I kind of want to wrap it up with this topic with, you know, kind of tying back to the reporters getting arrested for what's going on. Do you think that everyone's being silenced now on purpose?
What do you mean silenced?
As far as news outlets being and reporters being arrested, which to me is very dangerous. I think it's a violation of certain amendments, to be honest.
Well, again, these are laws.
Social media being shut down by executive orders, like certain things like that.
Before the next time you think about going to a different state in America, Google their laws and understand your rights in each county in each state. It's very different. Understand what you're getting yourself into. A lot of people assume if they go over here, they can do whatever they want to do. Freedom of press. Let me just say this. Education is the key to this whole entire situation or any other situation for that matter. When you're properly educated and you do your own personal research, you understand things from a complete different point of view. And it's not going to be always necessarily, it's not going to just, I'm upset, so I'm going to get violent. You're going to know how to change things, and that makes all the difference in the world. And the education is, I can't stop saying this enough. Education is the key of changing everything you want to change.
Yeah. I mean, I would only suggest that you guys instill that message into your children and your grandchildren, just to educate yourselves. But it starts with you, or even educate your parents or your grandparents, your uncles and sisters and stuff. And I know a lot of times people don't want to hear that.
I hear,
you too woke for me.
First off, you know, I've said that before when I was young.
Right.
I've said it before. I used to hear people talk about history, and this bothers me too. When you talk about a problem without a solution, you leave people like really messed up.
Well, I think that's fear. I think it's okay to talk about a problem without a solution because they're just a messenger. Maybe you were the one that needed to solve it, or you were the one that needed to pass it along to someone else that could solve
But when there's not enough resources, like when I was growing up, which they weren't, if you do know the solutions to the problems, give it to them. Tell them. Because I've also been, you know, that person that said, why we need to know about, you know, the past? Well, because I didn't learn anything about the past that's going to help me in my future.
Well,
so,
right now is a perfect example of why, because it seems like we're repeating what happened in the 60s as far as the civil rights movement. It almost seems like that fight or that movement on March was never finished. It almost seems like it's been on a pause for about 40 years, 40, 50 years. And now we're continuing to pick up where it's left off. But again, people with money that like the way things are trying to spin it to something else that is not.
It's real easy. I just say this, but I did learn where I came from, and I did learn the history and how it applies to me and why, and you know, it made all the difference in the world. You know, for those people that think it doesn't matter, and I understand where you're coming from. For those people that say that I don't even know about the past. Like I'm living right now. What does that got to do with it?
Right.
Whatever happened then happened then. Everything that happened then has everything to do with what's going on right now.
Right.
Everything, and you don't understand where you at, which is why you can't understand the difference.
Right. Right.
All right. I just want to say, the next show is going to be incredible.
Yep.
A lot of things going on.
Pick up where we left off.
Yeah, we definitely gonna pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
And
sorry for this being so much about one thing, but I think there's so much going on.
There are.
It's hard to even get into sub situations that we even spoke about. You know.
I mean, you know.
But it's good to talk about it, and I think.
I just want to say this. I don't know. I know that the internet. I was a little afraid of the internet when it came out. I remember everything being free, and I was saying to myself, this doesn't make any sense. Until they started, you know, charging people for the internet. And I remember when TV was free and they started charging people for the TV. But the backfire is, if it wasn't for the internet, we would literally know 2% of what we know now. If that much. And that would also be speculation of the truth. Because when the medias were in charge of releasing the information, when I went to other countries, I just went to England, okay? And there were situations going on here in America that they were reporting in England that was completely different. It was more graphic, it was more truth by far. It was completely different. I want you guys to understand how important it is, the internet is, where we can share information.
Might have to be on BCC tomorrow and stuff. Shout out to London.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for watching David Talks. Much love. See you guys again.
All right.